7 Eastern on CNN.
Doesn't anybody deserve a government that works?
In Crime and Punishment tonight, deliberations began in Los Angeles today in what some people have called the MySpace suicide trial. The woman who's at the center of the case could spend decades in prison if she's convicted. Now, the crime involves a computer. But is the government blaming the woman for a tragedy that was beyond her control? We're going to talk to CNN's senior legal analyst, Jeff Toobin, in just a moment. First, though, the story. Lori Drew is not charged with murder. But the parents of Megan Meier are convinced she pushed their troubled 13-year-old daughter to suicide.
As if my daughter would have killed herself with a gun. They loaded the gun for her.
Megan Meier hanged herself in her bedroom in 2006. Now, 2 years later, Drew awaits the outcome in what has become an extraordinary and extremely emotional trial.
This case is yet another lesson teaching us that malicious acts may have unforeseen but very serious consequences.
Federal prosecutors say Drew conspired with her daughter and an 18-year-old woman to bully and torment Megan on the internet. Prosecutors allege they used a fake MySpace page to trick Megan into thinking that a boy named Josh Evans liked her. Megan had no idea there was no such person as Josh Evans.
He thought she was really pretty. Posted on her comments on her pictures, you know, this is beautiful, your eyes are beautiful.
But when the fictitious boy suddenly ended their online relationship, telling her the world would be a better place without her, Megan became deeply distraught and took her own life. The trial is being heard in Los Angeles because, even though the case unfolded in Missouri, the headquarters for MySpace is in L.A. Drew is charged with 1 count of conspiracy and 3 counts of accessing protected computers without authorization to obtain information to inflict emotional distress. Drew has not admitted playing any role in the internet hoax, and there was conflicting testimony about that in the trial. Drew's defense attorney says she is innocent of the charges and is being vilified for simply not reading the MySpace terms of agreement. During closing arguments, he told the jury, "It's not a homicide case. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a computer case, and that's what you need to decide." If convicted, Drew faces a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. Kind of a crazy story. So what do you think? Did Lori Drew drive Megan Meier to suicide? Are prosecutors railroading her for what amounts to a computer crime? Let's get right to our expert joining us, the CNN senior legal analyst, Jeff Toobin. You know, if you listen to the prosecutors, their position is it was murder. If you look at, sort of positioning it that way, if you look at the defense attorneys, they say this is a computer crime. What is it? What do you think it is?
This is such a hard case legally. It's actually pretty simple morally. I mean, what Lori Drew did was appalling at any human level. But the question is, does the legal system have the tools to convict her for it? And I think that's very much an open question because, you know, the Missouri prosecutors looked at this and said, look, as bad as this behavior was, we can't find a crime that this fits under. But even though it's on the other side of the country, the Los Angeles prosecutors said, well, we're going to charge this essentially as defrauding MySpace, the service provider, by abusing the system in this way. Now, I don't know if that will fly legally.
You know, when you listen to the defense team, they say, well, you can't violate the terms of MySpace because nobody reads those terms. Well, that's kind of an odd argument, isn't it?
It's an odd argument, but it also happens to be true. Remember, this is a crime. This is a specific intent crime, which means you have to intentionally violate a legal duty that you have. Well, how do you know what your legal duty is if you haven't read the agreement? Now, everybody clicks through I agree on all those forms, and none of us read it. But none of us are criminally prosecuted either for the outcome here. So that's one of the aspects of the case that's so peculiar.
The little girl was emotionally fragile. She had problems, and it turns out in court that some people knew about those problems. What kind of a role does that play? Not in the moral argument, as you point out, which is very clear, but in the legal argument.
Well, again, it makes it harder for the prosecution. You know, we've seen a series of cases involving technology and crime where we think that, for example, a video game or a movie. Remember the Natural Born Killers case,
Right,
where
does it
people
cause someone to do something?
Right.
Why would it make it harder for the prosecution? You know she's emotionally fragile. It's like handing the girl a gun, as her father said.
Because causation is very hard to prove. Depressed people commit suicide. You never know what the trigger is going to be. Proving causation on anything where there is not direct evidence is very hard. And so here, it's hard as well.
Are we sort of seeing this new ground? I mean, we are forging new ground, and maybe something will come out of this case, regardless of how it goes, that'll say, okay, in cases like this, because this will not, sadly, be the last.
Every new technology creates new law with it. You know, telephones had created a whole new set of laws. Video has changed laws, and of course we know all about DNA. This is an unusual case, fortunately, and it may be that it is so unusual that the legal system simply is incapable of applying a remedy.
People harass people online, maybe not to the point where they commit suicide, but certainly it happens all the time. I mean, is there going to be a new sort of...
There might be, but you know the phrase, don't make a federal case out of it. I mean, there is an argument that, you know, parents should get involved.
As a federal prosecutor, you just didn't want to deal with it.
Well, no, but it's hard. I mean, it's really, you know, it's true. Prosecutors tend to be conservative in these areas because they know that to prove someone guilty of a crime, you need a lot of evidence.
Yes or no, she goes to prison or no?
I would say no.
We'll see how it turns out. Jeff Toobin, thanks as always. Still ahead, Anderson's hero. Going to meet the person who inspires him. Just who is it? We'll give you the answer coming up. Plus, want a ticket to the inauguration? Want to play